You can unmute us. There we go. Okay. Now hit that scroll down.
Where'd it go?
Other scroll, that one. Save changes.
Where is it?
There we go. And then unmute.
It's still not green though.
It is.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Hello.
Welcome to Facebook Chill. That's what it feels like, right? All right.
So we've reconnected to Facebook. Hopefully it will stay there, but it decided to kick us again at the beginning there. So apologies for the little blip at the beginning there, but it looks good at the moment. So hopefully all is good.
Yes.
So welcome to Wacky Wednesday.
Wacky Wednesday. And hopefully we have sound now.
Yeah,
and
we have a delay.
We have a delay?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that happens. All right. So, it's because you were on the wrong tab. Go to the next tab. Mute this one.
Dun, dun, dun.
Go to that one.
You didn't tell me how to do that.
There we go. That should be better.
Okay. Yeah, that looks better.
All right.
Dun, dun,
Music
dun,
was
dun,
great.
dun,
Oh, thanks,
dun.
Shirley. Hopefully
Yay.
now we have...
That was all her. She
voice.
did that. Isn't it cute?
It's very cute, right? I spent a little bit of time just trying to come up with
Playing
something.
and finding something that wasn't
different
annoying and that wasn't copyrighted, that wasn't...
Yes. So that hopefully we don't get any dings.
Yes. Fingers crossed.
So, all right, we have some more people joining us. So I'm thinking hopefully Facebook is finally connected, and if you are on Facebook, you are able to
pop in
and say hello. And today is the last Wednesday.
Last Wednesday of Quilt Month.
Yes. And we're excited. Quilt Month has been fun for me to do a little bit of different things. We do a lot of embroidery talk around here.
Hi, Mom. Facebook's working.
Oh, good. So it's been fun for me to talk about more about quilting, and not that I don't love to talk about embroidery or Kimberbell or whatever.
No, but it's your thing.
It's definitely my thing, and it's been fun. So
being Quilting Month, have you gotten to quilt at all at home?
No.
Have you done anything at home?
No.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
You're getting closer though all the time.
Yeah.
So
the sewing room is coming along, so I'm really excited for some of the changes and the colors and
what you will have.
What I will have when it will be ready. We have to put some carpet. So there's a small section in there. I wanted to put carpet underneath my cutting table.
Okay.
Not where I sew or anything or where the machines are, but I thought it would be nice to have a little carpet, more padding there. I really prefer to not wear shoes or slippers, so it's much easier on your knees and your feet, right?
If you got a little something
if you got
going
a little
on there.
carpet padding underneath there. So we decided to put a little section of carpet towards the back part of the basement area, and it's ready for the carpet, and then I can bring the cutting table down, and then I can kind of work until the rest of the cabinets come. But right now still things are all in tubs, and I've been decorating the walls and all that kind of fun stuff.
Well, I did pull a tub out, and I got like 10. I'm doing 4-inch squares, so like when I make 4, it'll make an 8-inch square.
Right.
I figured that's not too big, but it's a good size. So I've got 10 4-inch squares done
for your jacket.
6 of them are going to be to do. I did flying geese. I thought it would look cute, going like the arrows going down the sleeves. So 3. That's 12 inches worth. I thought that's close, and then I can just kind of fill in with regular fabric. It'll still be quilted, but not a patterned block.
That'll be fun.
For the sleeve cutouts, and then got 1 8-inch square for front, back, wherever I don't know,
it ends up.
however that ends up. But
that'll be fun and very cute.
I got somewhere. I can't say I love the finished aspects, but I can't say it's exciting sewing.
Right.
You know, a lot of, especially the flank geese, there's so many tiny pieces of folded fabric and whatnot.
Takes a little time.
But it's, turn something fun on the TV and go. But
well, it should be nice and warm with all the stabilizer in there. So,
stabilizers and threw some batting in there.
Yeah, it should be a nice and warm, warm jacket.
I'll still put some more batting in there because it needs to have layers.
She'll be walking around like this. It'd be like one of those puffer jackets.
It'll be a puffer jacket. No, it won't be that bad, but I'm using thin batting, but still batting. But yeah, so I actually started it. I've been trying to start that for how long?
Yeah, it's been a while.
So I said, nope, don't do anything else today. You're going to go and you're going to start that. Yeah. Now, those might be the only 10 I get done for however many months or whatever, but I started finally. So
yeah, I have, before we got to the part that we're at right now, I was sewing a little bit because I didn't have half of my things out of the room. Now I have baskets full of stuff because I'm trying to put stuff back up on the slat wall, and you got to bring it all out in order to know what you have.
Yeah, you got to make a mess before you can make it better.
Yeah, so it's still messy. And I figure it's like it's a process, right? So I want the top part of the slat wall to be more decorative. So, finding how I want to lay out all of the stuff.
Yeah, I have like a row of shelves around my top because I can't, I can't really use it. So I have shelves, and that's where like all of my Lego builds and all your dolls, that kind of stuff. So that's what I've got up on top of mine. So
yeah, my little New Kids on the Block dolls, they went up first.
Yeah,
so.
I have a Wonder Woman wall.
Yeah.
A section that it's not really functional to be anything else. And I'm like, that looks perfect. So I put all my Wonder Woman things over there, and
it's fun to have a little collection.
It's fun to have some personal stuff up there, but it's always a joy to sit in your sewing room, even if you're just sitting there doing nothing but sitting in there. It's a lovely place to be.
It is, and we've done some really fun things. So we took some sticky wallpaper, kind of like contact paper, and we put it on the back wall, and it's like black and white quilt blocks.
Oh, okay.
Because my bathroom down there has the same. We actually put ceramic tile like that on the counter, and I was like, oh, that'd be really fun. So that'll be like kind of what peeks out behind the cabinets.
Oh, how fun!
And then we painted kind of, apparently like this aqua teal color is popular in my home at the current moment, because that is the color that we picked for the little bit of the walls that you're going to see downstairs. As much as I love the purple, it wasn't working with the wood on the wall. It really did not look nice at all.
Yes, well, I'm still liking my teal with glitter paint. So I'm still happy with that.
Yeah, and this weekend was really funny because, when you paint a darker color on the wall, it shows like every little imperfection.
Every imperfection on the wall.
And we have this little area in the room where that's where they ran the heat run. So there's a small little drop down section, and it was a basement, so they didn't really do a really good job of drywalling it. It is kind of not great. And of course, so Dave worked on it, and then he painted it, and then he was like, oh my God, it's just awful. So then he worked on it some more, and he painted it, and he worked on it some more, and he painted it. So about the fourth time around,
he's like, okay, I can deal with that.
He's like, I think this is finally acceptable. So it's been pretty funny, and it's just been like this little section. So
well, we definitely don't have the same painting husbands.
Yeah, Dave he's a little bit of a perfectionist when it comes to little things like that.
Is about some things, but not when it comes to paint. Yeah, it's like, that's good enough.
Good enough. When I kept saying to him, I'm like, it's fine. Like, it's the basement ceiling. It's my sewing room. Nobody's looking up at that and judging. Right. Like, no one is going to think that was right. No one's going to think that is something that you did.
Right.
So, but he just couldn't live with it. So here we are, slowly but surely making our way through. And if those darn IKEA cabinets would ever come in,
you'd be good to go.
It would be my life would be I could just plunge right ahead.
Right ahead.
So, but here we are, talking about quilting, and I'm not doing any quilting.
So, quilting. One of the things that I found in my sewing room was all of my ruler work stuff. So we've got ruler work feet and some rulers here that we're going to look at.
Yep.
What else do you have? You've got an Echo foot here.
Yep. You've
got the C foot somewhere I saw floating around there. So, we're not cameraed. Which one is that? Is that this one?
That'll work.
That's the one I was going for. But
yeah, I think the one to the left will make that one. Yep. There you go. And then you can. There we go. There we go.
Dun, da, da, da.
Yep. So I have.
You guys are stuck with me pushing buttons again. So sorry.
So I brought some of the different feet that are available to do quilting. Keep in mind that there are just so many.
There's a lot of
so
stuff
many
out there,
choices.
for sure.
Lisa and I were talking about this. I don't know that I ever really held up
the two next to one another.
Right. So here we have the baby lock version and the westerly version. And if I hold them up next to each other, nope, can't see there. So if I hold them up this way, these are both the High-shank versions.
They are not the same.
But they are not the same size. So
the one on the left is taller than the one on the right.
So they really do make is that any better?
Yeah, you can I mean I can see.
Yeah, maybe white. Is white better?
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So the one here is a little bit taller. Lighting is terrible.
The lighting happens to not be great right there,
So anyways, these are both High-shank ruler feet. And the reason we want to use, the reason we want to know if they're High-shank or low-shank is because we want to know that our ruler is going to be able to
be rubbed up against and still work.
We want to make sure that we can get the ruler behind the foot so it will glide behind. And then we want to make sure that it is thick enough so that the foot doesn't come over top of it, because then we would be stitching through our ruler, which would be a terrible thing to do. So we definitely don't want to do that.
We don't want to do that.
The other thing that's just a little bit different is the tip of the foot. So the baby lock version here, they call this an open toe version. And there is a little, God, the glare. There's a little notch out of the front of this foot. So
open toe meaning that it's not a complete closed circle. So there's a little opening there that you can actually move your thread or whatever through.
Yep. And this one is completely closed. So you can see that's completely closed. Maybe if I angle this down this way.
There we go.
There we go. You can see the little
opening
there. So this one would be considered an open toe because there's that little gap. I don't really consider that to be really an open toe to me. When I think of an open toe, I think of something a little bit more like this.
Yeah.
But this is pretty much as open as you're going to get with a ruler foot because you don't
want the ruler to slip into that
exactly.
Notch. Yeah.
Exactly. And then we have the Echo quilt foot, which is just this piece of plastic, and it's got little rings on it. And the rings are designed so that you can sort of move around.
I think it's so funny. I absolutely love the look of Echo. I've never tried that foot.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I've got to play with that one.
Play with that one a little bit. This one is also good if you have really puffy batting because the surface area of this sort of helps smush down the batting and makes
it flows over edges or whatnot a little bit easier.
Exactly. And so you don't have to use it to echo. I have a lot of people who really like this type of foot.
To be their quilting foot.
Right. It's also slightly bowl shaped. So when you're running on your fabric, it'll be much more likely to not go completely underneath your fabric. It will glide over top of that with a better chance of not catching
not getting caught
versus a little teeny foot like this, which is really easy when you get to the edge.
For sure.
So you can use it for
like long arm or whatnot. They do make something that's actually called a glide foot, and it looks very similar.
It looks very similar. It's a little more cupped.
It's more cupped.
But yeah, definitely a lot of long armors use that because when you're going edge to edge,
you want to make sure that you don't get caught on the edge.
You want to fly off the edge.
Excuse me. So lots of options. We've got open toe, we've got a Echo, we've got the ruler, and then this one is the C, as in cat.
Yes.
And that just has a very tiny little circle
there. It does.
And that one you definitely need to be in center needle position for.
You definitely need to be center needle position. Honestly, this foot and this foot are my two favorite. And I use this little guy most of the time.
Do you?
I just, for whatever reason, I just find it to be easy to see. It doesn't take up any space underneath it. So I feel like I'm almost
where you're going and where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's almost like I'm just with the needle because it's so small and it doesn't get in the way. I rarely use this style foot. I don't find it to be super beneficial for me. But of course, if I'm going to do ruler work, I need to have a ruler foot on. It doesn't really matter that I like
not one of those rules that you
better. Break. No, you can see it would be so easy for these rulers to just slide over top of any of these feet, and then you would just stitch right through there. So you definitely want to make sure that you have something that is big and bulky when you're doing any type of ruler work.
And not only that, the ruler foot itself is sized specifically so that you can plan what you're ruler working.
Yes.
Where if you used something that didn't have that specific measurement to it,
you might have a little more play.
You might not end up with the design quite where you wanted it to be because your stitch would not be the same distance from the ruler.
That is absolutely correct. And there are a ton of different rulers out there.
I've got a couple different brands in my box, and they are different in height. They are different in color. They're all kinds of differences available.
And they make all kinds of different tools that can help you. This happens to be a centering ruler, and there are marks in here for you to actually draw on your block. So you don't actually stitch in here. You're using this to mark.
You're going to put a pen through that.
Yep.
Not your needle.
Not your needle, yes. So you're using this to actually kind of get your placement of where you want your things to be. And
so you don't have to use that just for ruler work. You could plan out other things.
Exactly.
With that as well.
A crosshair ruler.
It's a crosshair ruler. It was purchased because of ruler work. A lot of the rulers that I bought are the put a pin in it and do circles or different things. So you needed to know where your different sections and things were. So that's why I have that.
Yeah, there's lots of different things. So these are spinning rulers. That's what she was talking about, where you kind of need to know where your center is. So there's a little mark over here for you to put everything in. They kind of see there, that little white thing there.
So
and then
you can make a petal or make a flower, but you would need to know which lines to move to make the next petal.
Exactly.
And so the crosshair ruler is perfect for that. You just draw it and then you know right where to start.
Yes, and this little guy over here, it's kind of like a little key. When that is out, then you can slide your foot inside there, and then you just put that space back in there, and it kind of fills the gap for you. And the nice thing about this is you basically are just spinning this around. Oops.
That was probably just loose in the package.
Spinning this around on your quilt as you want to create your petals. And most of them have a little cheater code on it so that you know what, nope, can't really see that. There is, oh, there we go, the etched. So that's the design.
What it would look like.
So if you're like looking for your instructions or something like that and you have them separated, that kind of will tell you what shape you could build with this. Does that mean that that is what you have to use with this? Nope. Nope. It absolutely does not. The advantage of using rulers is that there are so many different shapes and sizes for you to make all kinds of different styles. The disadvantage of rulers is that there are so many shapes and sizes for you to choose. So sometimes you can spend, that's right, you can spend a lot of time trying to figure out just the right part or the right shape for your particular project. If you are thinking that ruler work is something that you want to invest in, I recommend that you start with,
that's a great start.
They make a starter kit. This basically will give you a gentle arc and then straight lines. You can do a lot with just these two shapes.
Absolutely.
And this will kind of help you decide whether or not ruler work
is something you want to venture farther into.
Right. Or if you just want to learn the art of free motion quilting. The art of free motion quilting and the art of ruler work, they are two very different things, even though we are technically sewing without our feed dog. So both of these would be considered a free motion technique. When you're doing ruler work, you need to hold a ruler and you need to hold it in the place that you need it to be. Then you need to guide your machine around the shape. So I think that learning the art of free motion quilting, or at least doing a little bit of doodling or circles or something like that, is much easier to start out with free motion quilting than having this be the very first thing you did. And the reason that I feel like that is because you can kind of get the feel of what you're actually supposed to be doing instead of being like, this feels really weird. I'm not really sure what to do.
act of moving your fabric fluidly underneath your foot.
Yes.
Where with just standard free motion, you move it wherever you want it to go.
Exactly.
You might not get exact design you want, but you have it a free ability to move.
Yes.
With the ruler, you're free motioning, but you have to follow a line.
You are following.
And so whether you're moving right or left or front or back, it's very specific.
Right.
To get the shape that you're supposed to get.
Yes.
And it can be very difficult to move your fabric right and left. Because we don't do that naturally.
Right, exactly. Also, the art of the, like, getting even stitches is, there's a learned technique when you're using rulers, which is different than the learned technique doing free motion quilting. So one of the things that people ask me all the time is about a stitch regulator foot. And I worked with brands of machines that had a stitch regulator foot, and I will tell you what happens. The stitch regulator foot becomes kind of like training wheels for you. So it works really great at the beginning because
you're going slow.
You have no idea what you're doing. So you're kind of all over the place. And then what happens as you build your technique, the foot no longer is a requirement and it becomes possibly a hindrance, because there is a limit to the speed that you can do with those feet. Then they just beep at you. So if you go faster than the foot is capable of doing, then the machine basically just gives you a giant error message and it doesn't actually regulate your stitch anyways.
Because it's bouncing off of that fabric to know how fast the fabric's moving, which equals how big to make the stitches.
Yes, there are two types of stitch regulators. One that basically regulate based on how quickly the thread is moving, and one that looks at the fabric. The ones that look at the fabric can be either on the bottom of a foot, or they can be kind of like on a puck.
On the puck off to the side that's sitting on the fabric that you're moving.
Yes. So, but they're looking at the fabric. People will say, when you go to a store and you're looking at stitch regulator feet, people will tell you all kinds of different things. Oh, it won't work with this color fabric, or it won't work with this. That's not the truth. The truth is it will work on any type of fabric. The reality is the only limitation on a stitch regulator is the speed that you can go. Some people, they drive fast and really, and that foot will never regulate their stitch.
It can't keep up with you.
Because you can't keep up. And it's not because it can't see the fabric or anything else. It's just because it needs to be able to, it's like a blur, right? It's like if you're driving on the expressway and you're going 100 miles an hour, when you're trying to read the license plate, it's a complete blur versus the guy puttering around at 35 miles an hour. You can definitely read that license plate. This concept is the same. The stitch regulator is doing exactly the same thing. But most machines have a speed control. A speed control is exactly the same thing as a stitch regulator. It is regulating how fast your needle moves when you're moving that. So really, if you have a machine that doesn't have a stitch regulator, all you have to do is play with your slide speed control. You're just going to
mirror your speed to the machine.
Exactly. You're just going to move that based on the speed that you're going, and then your stitches will become more consistent. There'll be a little bit of trial and error as you figure out what your speed is. Start off a little bit slow, keep going. But I find that to be much easier than trying to regulate the speed with my foot controller.
Yeah.
I think throttle the machine using the speed control dial and then give it all the gas.
So just for clarification, you're not advocating to do this with the push button.
No.
Just using the speed control on your machine to regulate your foot pedal's power.
Yes, because it kind of throttles the speed. It's kind of like...
I just wanted to make sure everybody we're not push button start.
No.
She still wants you to, and I still recommend that you're going to use your foot pedal.
Yes.
But don't necessarily have it tuned all the way up.
Right.
Let that control how much gas is being provided.
Exactly. So it's kind of like using speed control on a car, but you have all the ability to put your foot on the brake and stop the car. When I use the button to start and stop my machine, you have to take your hand off of your project to stop the needle from moving. And a lot can happen. Exactly. A lot can happen in just a couple of seconds. So I prefer to have my foot controller because then I can just take my foot off of the pedal. But I don't want to have to change the speed of my foot controller, because
you don't want to have to temper your
No.
foot to only go down halfway.
Right.
You want to be able to push it pedal to the metal, but
Yes.
only have it set at
Exactly.
whatever medium speed or whatnot that your machine has the ability to do.
Yes, it's kind of like tapping your head and rubbing your belly at the same time. When I feel like when I have too many variables, then
you're just asking for something to go wrong.
Right. I'm not concentrating on the thing that I should be concentrating, and the thing that I want to be concentrating on is this.
So for anybody at home that is still like, I don't grasp what they just said, if you put your foot pedal plugged in,
yes,
and you have the slide lever on the front of your machine turned all the way down, it does not matter how much gas, how hard you push on that pedal, the machine is still going to stitch like this.
Yes.
If you turn it all the way up, then how much gas you're giving it is going to have full control over slowest speed all the way up to the highest speeds in there. You can adjust that. So for instance, what she's saying is put it like on medium.
Yep.
And then you've got this, even if your pedal is all the way down, and you're not having to temper it based on your foot. So that's not going to change.
Right.
In, like, oh, I turned a corner and my foot naturally came off the pedal a little bit or whatever.
Because that's what we do when we
because
make
that's
a turn,
what we do. We slow down when we curve, right?
Right.
But it is, you just keep that foot pedal down all the way, and it's going to automatically keep you at that same whatever speed it is that you've set.
Exactly.
Even with the pedal all the way down.
Even with the pedal all the way down.
And that is true for regular sewing as well as free motion sewing. But
yes,
that's what we're recommending here. Is that you are controlling the speed with the speed control, but still using your foot pedal.
Exactly. And then you can decide how big or how little you like the look of your stitches. And if you are sewing and the needle is moving very fast and you are moving your fabric very slow, your stitches will be smaller. Yeah, they will be shorter together. And then the opposite would be true. If I am moving my fabric very fast and my needle is moving very slow, then my stitches will be really big. That's right. So finding that pace.
You got to mirror yourself to the machine.
Exactly. Yep. Sometimes people will do free motion quilting with like music on in the background because again, it helps you find your rhythm, and that helps you be more consistent. So
the type of music that you choose might have, be smart.
Be smart, yes. Choose those things wisely. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just I'm going to start with my favorite foot, which is this little C foot. And this happens to be the high-shank version. There is a low-shank version for some of the other machines.
Can I help? Are you good?
I am good. I just need to be behind the needle.
That helps.
Yeah.
So it's a quiet group out there. Anybody have any questions or comments or anything? We will attempt to answer as we go.
Okay.
Okay, she's got that foot on there. We've got our thread. Do you need to thread that? I know a lot of people ask that. Does it need to go through the foot?
It should, but how I typically get that through the foot is what I want to do is I want to bring my bobbin thread up to the top. This is not one of those things that you absolutely have to do, but it is one of those things that I have found to be beneficial for me. If I can't pull my bobbin thread up to the top, then there is a good possibility that my bobbin thread is not threaded correctly. And so when I start stitching, it's not going to work. The other thing that can happen is we can get a little bit of a ball of nesting that happens underneath there. We have a really long thread.
You get a yuck.
You get a yuck. By doing this, I have two choices. Depending on what I want to do when I'm finished with my quilt, if I have all of my tail threads either on the top or on the bottom, then I could bury these later on. It's going to be much easier for me to see them on the top than it would be to pull my top thread down to the bottom and be blind.
So there's one big advantage to having them on top is you don't accidentally stitch over all of your tail, and then you have to
yes.
weave them out of your stitches. If it's on top, you can see at least and pull it out of the way.
Move it out of the way. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I've got a pretty long tail here, obnoxiously long. You don't need to have something quite this long, but it's a little bit easier. So while I'm holding this in my hand, I'm going to put my foot down. And then I am going to do one of two things. I'm going to use the needle up, needle down button on the machine because we have one. If you don't have one of these on your machine, you can just use your hand wheel. So I'm going to put the needle down, or you can turn it. So the needle went down. I'm still holding this thread in my hand right here. And then I'm going to bring my needle back up. And when I do that, I'm going to kind of pull on this tail thread here. And what happens is my bobbin thread kind of pops out the bottom here. So now I have that. So I have both of these threads in my hand. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a stitch. So a couple stitches there. And then I'm going to put my foot up. And then I'm just going to take, I usually use my stiletto. And then I'm just going to take my stiletto and I'm going to grab those two threads and I'm going to pull them. I'm basically pulling the top thread now through the foot. Almost. There it is. All right, so now I have both of my threads. It is underneath my foot. And then at this point, I could decide what I wanted to do. I usually, I use this button. I usually do a couple stitches in place.
I'll lock it in.
Kind of lock it in place. And then I'm going to just slide that out of my way. Now, you're going to want to do a little bit of practicing beforehand so you can kind of determine a few different things. I want to put my feed dogs down, so that should have been the first thing that I did.
Right.
The second thing that I'm going to do after I take a couple stitches is perhaps adjust my presser foot pressure. So what I want to happen is I want to be able to move the fabric that I have here freely. I don't want to feel like I have to shove everything through here.
You shouldn't be fighting the machine.
You should not be fighting the machine. If you have lessened your presser foot pressure and you still have resistance, there are two things that you can do. The place that you are sewing on, you could try to like make that a little bit more slick. So I've used like furniture polish on the area, my desk or the plate that I have that on there to help the fabric glide through. It helps so that it's not staticky clean to that. The other thing that you can do, and we probably have some at the store, we didn't bring any over, is they make gloves that you can put on your hands. And the gloves are really great if you have odd shaped hands. Like I feel like they make them for small, medium, and large, but like the small is a little tight on me, but the medium is really big. You can also use like the tips of like rubber gloves on your finger, especially if you get hot. You know, some people that
they don't want the glove because they're warm bodied.
Yes.
On an average, so you don't want to add to that.
Or maybe you have a little bit of arthritis and it's not real comfortable to have something like rubbing on that. So you can just use the tips of that, and you don't necessarily have to have it on all of your fingers, but sometimes your middle,
thumb and middle, at least,
yep, or your index and that. So sometimes you can do that, but having a little bit of like extra grip, like from the tips of rubber gloves on there, will help you hold your fabric, and it will help it slide around a little bit more to make that a little bit easier. So I have actually also raised the presser foot up because I have the ability to do that. Depending on your machine, you may not have the ability to do this.
Nope.
And sometimes you have to raise it more than you think you need to raise it. So I usually go up pretty high and then
adjust as needed.
And then back down, because I find that I'm much more likely to be accurate that way. So that's what I typically do. So this foot is going to glide over top of this fabric. And I don't really have a plan right now. I'm just going to do a little bit of loops, which is kind of like puzzle pieces or stipples. So I'm just holding everything as much as I can.
We have the same sandwich that we talked about last week. So If you were wondering about how to build a sandwich or whatever, we went into that last time.
So I'm really just moving the fabric around. And I'm on a little less than medium speed. I mean, and people will tell you don't come over top of the same stitches, but really what we're doing right now is we're just practicing. One of the things that I find happens is that when we get to the curves, we want to go a little bit faster. And so your stitches on the circles may end up being a little bit longer. So normally I would not use my thread cutter. I would again just stop and pull my threads up. But what I'm trying to look at now is to see what it looks like on the back. So it doesn't look bad at all. Sometimes you don't know what it's going to look like. Sometimes you get a little bit of what we call them sort of eyelashes when you turn different directions quickly. You can have a little bit of tension issues that start, so you don't always know what exactly it's going to look like. If that were the case, if I'm having problem on the bottom, I need to make the adjustment on my top thread, and if I'm having trouble on the top, then I need to make an adjustment with my bobbin thread. We can't always adjust our bobbin thread. We can change to a different weight, or if we have an auxiliary bobbin case, we can adjust the tension a little bit. But on our standard bobbin cases that we use for embroidery, we don't have the ability to do that. So you're basically just going to be looking to see if you can get even stitches. The camera really does not like this. Let's try this camera. It's not really happy with the stark white.
Yeah, it makes it look gray.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. I can see stitches. So again, I do not profess to be a stupendous free motion quilter.
But I'd say those are pretty even.
But it's not too bad. And like I said, a lot of it has to do with just being able to find the speed that works well with you. My problem with free motion quilting, you can take it off that camera because the glare is terrible. The problem that I have with free motion quilting is that I am a terrible drawer. So because I can't draw well, I also can't make shapes well because I lack the skills to create those designs.
There definitely is a correlation.
Yes.
For sure. Absolutely.
But you can take a panel piece like this and you can do, you can just go around it.
Kind of like thread painting kind of thing.
Exactly, like thread painting. Again, I would take the time to pop my top thread up to the bottom and do all of those things. I'm
just for your benefit today, so it doesn't matter what we're doing here. We're going to skip that.
You can just kind of follow along the edge. And it doesn't have to be perfect. We can kind of that's the nice thing about quilting, is that a lot of times it doesn't have to be perfect. And going backwards is so much harder because I can't see where I'm going. So I would typically turn this.
And sometimes making the conscious choice to not be right on a line, therefore makes it not look like you missed the line.
Right. And for me, what I find is, like Lisa can see, my stitches are really, really close together. Whenever I'm trying to follow a path, I tend to
move slower.
I move substantially slower. Yes. So I really need to actually slow my speed down in order to make that. When I'm doing loops and doodles and different things,
be consistent, right? You just go.
Because I'm not trying to follow a pattern. Exactly. But when I do try to follow a pattern, I tend to be substantially slower. So hopefully that makes sense for everyone. I'm going to pop the ruler foot on real quick.
Do you need this? I didn't know how tight you did that. I think you just did your fingers, but.
I did, but you never know. You never know. All right. Oh, I gotta take it all the way up.
And for some godforsaken reason, I have Brady Bunch stuck in my head. Here's a story. So I apologize. It's like in there.
In there, yeah.
And I'm humming it. So I'm so sorry.
That is okay. So my trick for these feet, because this is adjustable, is I actually put the foot down and then I put the foot where I want it. So I find the hole again, tighten that up a little bit. And how you can adjust the foot on this particular style is by putting it in a different, like tightening it up in the different part of the slot.
Right,
so,
but if you put it in when the foot is up, you have no idea how close it's going to be to your project.
Exactly. So you're going to end up needing to adjust it anyways. And I had raised the foot a little bit, so this is going to glide pretty well. I do want to make sure.
What do you need?
The ruler.
I took it.
Oh, thank you. I want to make sure that that there's not enough space underneath that foot for this to slide under. So
you don't want it too high.
Exactly. No matter what you do, make sure that you do that. So I'm going to slow this speed down just a little bit more.
Because you're going to be following a path.
Because I'm going to follow a path. And you can hold your ruler in your left. I'm really glad that wasn't a needle.
Me too. That wouldn't have been fun.
So, yeah, you can follow with either the left side or the right side. It does not matter. Okay, so the thing with rulers is that I need to be slightly away from the area because I need to be able to make sure that the foot itself, right, is going to glide. If I want it to glide on that particular line, if I wanted to go inside the line, which I find to be a little bit easier with rulers, so I have something to guide to that. What I would do is then line my ruler up here, knowing that I'm going to be about 1/4 of an inch away. And so the key now is that I have to hold the ruler.
And can I just say before she starts, there's no grips on this ruler. For whatever reason, we never stuck any on that one. So there's nothing keeping that from sliding around.
Right.
So don't judge if the ruler moves. So we have the edge of the ruler here riding up against the edge of the ruler foot.
Right.
Which is approximately that 1/4 of an inch center needle position to the outside of the ruler. And then you'd slide your ruler down and keep going.
Yep. Don't sew through your finger.
Yes, please don't do that.
But you can see, because I'm kind of concentrating on where I'm going, that I'm sewing substantially slower than I was when I was doing free motion quilting. So, and if I wanted to do, maybe I wanted to do a little arc in the corner here.
So again, you've got markings and things in the rulers to help you place that appropriately.
And then you can flip that around. It doesn't really matter what shape you're using. This is the general concept of using a ruler. We're using this to mark our shape. Now, if I were doing this for real, I probably would have made a little note in
where to start and where to stop.
Exactly, where to start and stop with my corner.
So your corner would match everywhere.
Right, so I'm not just doing it all willy-nilly.
Hence, like the crosshair ruler, to be able to give you a measurement. And
Exactly. So this is the basic concept of using the rulers to quilt around your design. Again, you're going to go a little bit slower. I think as you get used to this, you can definitely increase your pace a little bit.
Just remember to adjust the machine along with that.
Yep.
If your sewing pace is going faster, you'll want to adjust
your
so that the stitches are going to equal the same length as what you had previously.
Yep. And it definitely helps if you have gloves on when you're doing that, especially with ruler work, because it's really hard. That is not even remotely close to being the same, but oh, I did a terrible job of that one. I had 3 good corners and then it all went to crap.
Welcome to the normal world, right?
Right.
That's
I pushed that one a little bit faster. There's a little less resistance over here because there's no quilt.
No quilt.
So
yep, it's moving a little easier.
That is literally what ruler work is. Ruler is finding a ruler that has the shape and the size of the design that you want, and then playing around with it.
Definitely practice before you go to your main project, because there is definitely a figure it out phase.
Exactly. They make rulers for home sewing machines, and they make them in both high-shank and low-shank, and they also make them for long arm machines.
But they are not the same.
They are not. They are not. And one thing that I like, if you wanted to use this particular ruler, those little grips that you can put on like the maybe the back of your phone that stick to them, where you can kind of hold your hand around that, really makes a big
You mean the rings?
The rings, not the ring. Like the back of my phone has like
a pop socket.
A pop socket, yeah. So like they make different styles of things. So if you have something like this that you can attach to the ruler that you can use, it is substantially easier to hold the ruler with something like that than it is to try to get your hand in there
and keep your fingers out of the way.
Right, because you're going to want to have your hands over here. And when I get close to here, while the machine itself is not stitching it, it's not the needle, the screw is
going to kiss it.
It is, yes, it hit my fingers more than once while I was doing that. So it can be, the first time that happens, you're like,
you jump and then it does not look like you want it to, because it went.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so it will definitely happen. But there's just a lot of fun. I wouldn't typically just pick this foot to do some stitching, but you know, I like to do little puzzle pieces or loops or swirls because they're easy. But you can also, you know, do little boxes and things like this. So it doesn't have to be, you know, anything super fancy, because like this is something that I can dream up in my head, and it, you know, it doesn't have to be really, really fancy. And I'm now going entirely too slow for the way that I want to stitch because I don't have a ruler anymore. But also you can surprise yourself and you can make some really fun designs.
Things.
So I took a class one time on learning how to like make a flower, and I have always been able to just make the shape of a flower because it doesn't really matter. And the more you layer around it, the more petals you get. And I remember very vividly the teacher teaching, and she was like, stitch, 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 wiggle it, stitch, 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 wiggle it. And I was like, oh yeah, I can do that. So you can kind of layer in petals. So like I can make a rose or carnation or a little flower like that with pretty ease.
Yeah.
I can't make a feather to save my life.
Feathering's hard, even with rulers and things. It's hard.
Right. So that is a little bit harder, but like, and I can make like a leaf and a heart. And those are the extent, that is the extent of my drawing skills.
I can write my name.
That is it. I can't even do my name in cursive. It doesn't even look like my name.
No?
No.
I can do my name. I have signed my name into many things.
Yes.
If I'm doing a baby quilt, I'll throw in, like if I know the child's name or whatever, I'll throw in the child's name.
Yeah.
Sometimes mom and dad's name or right word baby.
Yeah.
Because that's about all the creativity that I have available to me, but I can do that.
I think the reason that I can't sign my name is because as a lefty, I write more in a different direction. Right. And when I am quilting, I feel like I guide more with my right hand and less with my left hand.
So just for kicks and whatnot, it's been a little while since I've done ruler work, but I'm pretty sure I generally have the ruler in my left hand, not in my right hand.
Yes.
Because I'm right-handed.
Right.
So I noticed while you were, I'm like, oh, I wonder if I'd be any better at it like that.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some differences there as well.
Right. If I, when I played on a long arm using a ruler, I felt more comfortable
I
driving.
love that. Yeah, because you have
driving
you're moving the machine,
way,
not the fabric.
With the ruler underneath. That was easier for me, even though I'm left-handed. It felt very awkward for me to hold the long arm with my left hand and hold the ruler. So I'm pretty ambidextrous, so I don't really know why
that was more comfortable for you.
Yes.
I definitely, there's a very different feel to long arm free motion quilting than there is flatbed free motion quilting.
Yes.
It's very different moving the machine versus moving your fabric.
Yes.
For sure.
Exactly.
So.
This is like, I tell people that this is like moving the piece of paper. So it would be like having your crayon stuck held
in position
and you deciding to do this
wiggle,
to
wiggle,
color
wiggle.
it in. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle,
wiggle,
stitch,
wiggle,
stitch,
stitch,
stitch. Yeah. So that's why this feels different. When we're on a long arm, our fabric is stationary and we color with the pencil, which is why
it's more natural.
It is more natural, but it doesn't mean that you can't learn this technique. And I do think that if you want to draw a shape here, I do think that tracing the shape with your hand, like if you had a coloring book page of the design that you want and doing the motion, because the motion will still be the same. It'll
There's
just
a learning
be
curve to that.
Slightly different.
You can use a drawing and physically drawing it out to helping your brain connect with the motions that you want to do on the machine.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
For sure.
So that is the extent of my free motion quilting. There is a little bit of a flower and a heart or a leaf, and that is it. That's all I can draw.
Nothing wrong with that.
Good to know your limitations. So if the quilt doesn't have a place for rulers or leaves, and I'm doing free motion quilting, it's going to be stipple or loops. I
like loops. I don't like the stipple. I find that I always get somewhere I can't get out of because I'm not supposed to cross the line in a stipple. So I loop.
Yes.
And that way I can always loop to get out of wherever I'm at. So.
Exactly. So
Rebecca says she loves quilting with rulers, makes her look like a better quilter. So it definitely, once you are used to it, it can give you that edge, which is exactly what it does, gives you an edge to follow. And so you can't really see my box of toys over there, but I have a nice collection of them, and I've played with most of them. Doesn't mean that I have completed a project with any of them, but I have played with everything that's in that box at least once. It always seems like a great idea to buy another one.
Right.
I have visions in my head of what I want to do.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that I always can make those projects that get done.
Right.
But I have great plans when I buy things.
Yeah. The other thing that makes a big difference when you're quilting on a home sewing machine is the ergonomics that you're sitting at.
Yeah.
We haven't had our machine sitting in our cabinet for quite some time.
Because we embroider the bulk of it.
So, but it is substantially easier to have a larger flat surface. So the larger the flat surface,
the easier it will be to move.
Exactly. And if you sit in a cabinet, you have the benefit of having that extra space. If you don't sit at a cabinet and you want to learn free motion quilting, Sew Steady makes a free motion quilting table, which allows you to actually turn your machine so that you're sitting at it like you would be looking at a long arm versus sitting at it like we regular sew. And a lot of people have much better success free motion quilting that way, because what happens is we move our fabrics left to right, because that's kind of like how we read. We oftentimes don't stitch forward and backwards. And so we hit the back of the machine. Whereas when we turn the machine, we are moving the fabric left and right, and we aren't running in.
We're not running into the machine.
To the back of the machine. So
we have one of those here.
We do.
It's in a box over. I even know right where it is. Crazy. I know. But and it definitely is it's a different feel. But if it's something that you do a lot of, it's definitely not in a very expensive.
Right, for a couple
$200, you can really open up a different world of space.
Yes.
In the way that works.
Exactly.
So the table is just shaped differently so that you're working in a different space. But it really is a really neat. Neat
if you sew in a cabinet, though, I would not.
No.
It doesn't.
You would have a larger surface in your cabinet, so it's still a bigger benefit here.
The benefit of being down lower far outweighs the ability
to turn the machine. Yeah. Unless you have a height adjustable table, and then we'll talk.
That's right. Yes.
But no, it's definitely a neat
option.
A neat option for sure.
Yep.
So, I don't see any other questions or anything popping up, and it is coming right up to our 4:30 mark. So, are there any other questions out there?
Guys are very quiet.
I know it's a quiet day today.
They're all still jamming from our new.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stitch. All right. Well, hopefully that answered a few of your free motion and ruler quilting options, and any questions that you might have had. As always, you know where to find us if you still have some questions. I don't know. Got anything else?
I don't.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us. We will see you next time.
Yep.
All right.
Bye.